Hello, everybody. This is my first live stream of my cannabis science newsletter. So, thanks for everybody who might join in, just testing this and getting it going. So, this is from my newsletter, Cannabinoids and the People. It's a free weekly cannabis science newsletter. I go through a couple hundred research articles each week and bring you the best of cannabinoid science. This was a big week. There's like 80 different research papers in here. And so let's get started. The first thing to say is thank you to our sponsor, PlusCBD, the company's CV Sciences, makers of PlusCBD, which is, I worked for them for years, and I can say they make really high quality products. But what's even more special is they make all kinds of different types of products. They have a wider product array than most companies out there. Not only have oils, capsules, and gummies, they have topicals. They have their reserve collection, which is gummies or capsules that have 2.5 milligrams of THC in them. So this is a legal way to get THC into your system. It's especially great for old people because it's an exact serving size of THC, and it's legal because it comes from hemp. So you can actually ship this anywhere in the country. I think it's one of the best ways for a person who is THC naive or scared to try THC again to get in their systems. It's a small enough amount that they really don't need to worry about it. And the CBD balances out any of the negative psychoactivity that can happen with THC. They also have excellent pet products, and they have some really special products for sleep. They have a sleep gummy that also has melatonin, along with the CBD and extracts of lemon balm and magnolia bark. They also have calm gummies, which have 5-HTP, the serotonin precursor, and they have L-theanine from tea in the calm gummies. And then finally, they have the relief capsules, which are very cool because they have PEA in them. And if you don't know PEA, it's probably going to be the next CBD. It is a almost endocannabinoid that lives in our brain. It's probably in every cell inside of our body, and it's just amazing for the immune system. And it's even safer than CBD, and CBD itself is an amazingly safe product. Let's play with my lighting a little bit here. This is my first time doing this. I don't really have it set up quite all the way yet. Oh, that's better. That's better. All right, cool. Thanks for playing along. So Plus CBD oil, they make great products. Go check them out at pluscbdoil.com. Thanks to our sponsors this week. So let's go through the most important part first, the best of the cannabinoid science. I always have this at the top of the list. We have a new review that confirms the efficacy of CBD for social anxiety. And what's cool about this review is that it doesn't only focus on the clinical trials that are out there. It also looks at the pathways by which this is working, because CBD affects your serotonin pathways. It can help calm down the brain by affecting your glutamate pathways, which are your basic excitatory neurotransmitters. They also have reviews of neuroimaging studies. They can see how CBD is slowing down things inside your brain, especially in the amygdala, which is your fear response center. And so the review of CBD for social anxiety makes a lot of sense. There's also a survey of people who have substance use disorder or addiction. And the ones who use CBD found that it helped them to sleep better. It helped them to relax. It helped them to reduce their pain, and it helped them to feel less anxious. So what I always say about CBD for substance use disorder is that it is no silver bullet, but it is a nice tool to have. And for a lot of people, it can help with withdrawal symptoms. It can also help with some of the potentially anxious feelings that first led you to taking substances in the first place. Leads me to taking substances in the first place. And speaking of reasons to take substances, there is a diary study that just came out of people who have PTSD, and they used cannabis to help with their PTSD, which is a very common use if you know any veterans or other people with PTSD. In this diary study, which was they closely monitor people, the CBD-rich products were the most helpful for helping people sleep better. They had less early awakenings from their sleep if they're using CBD-rich products. And so to keep going on our CBD start, it's not always a CBD heavy, but CBD is a hot research topic these days. This one's cool. In teenage rats and adolescent rats who are withdrawing from an alcohol binge, you tend to be surly and antisocial after drinking a bunch of alcohol. CBD increased their social exploration, reduced their stress hormone levels, restored dopamine transmission, and helped to strengthen and remodel their brain connections. And so for your teens who are having problems with something like alcohol, CBD can help with the hangover. It can also maybe help with the kind of behaviors that led to this in the first place. Oh, good. They're doing construction right now. So it goes. This is just a test anyway. Let's see if anybody even signs on. Let's get, especially for post-surgery and things like that, for you not to need as many opiates and then never have as much of a chance of getting addicted to them. So something else PEA can do in heart cells that have been exposed to chemotherapy drugs. Chemotherapy is really, I mean, it's terrible on the body. It's a hard thing on the body. Anyone who has gone through chemotherapy will tell you it's very hard on the heart, especially. There's lots of downstream risks from cancer treatments using chemotherapy. PEA protected the heart cells from death and inflammation via nuclear receptors. So they actually turn down genes for inflammation. They also work it via inflammasome pathways. So basically, they stop the heart from being as inflamed from the chemotherapy treatment. And the last thing I have listed here in our best of for the week is they used AI to look at this big data set of people who had cannabis use disorder, which, cannabis use disorder is often not the most well-defined disorder, but I do believe addiction to cannabis exists. I've seen it in the real world. I kind of see it in myself. And people get addicted to any behavioral activity. Simply putting that pipe up to your lips can be as addictive as shopping or sex or gambling or things like that. It's still a dopamine hit. And the cannabinoids themselves are slightly physically addictive. You can go through withdrawal from that. And there obviously can be mentally addictive, like any activity can. So there's very distinct gender differences according to this AI looking at a big data set. And I know gender doesn't exist, but when you're looking at animal studies and human studies, you often see a very distinct between the male polarity and the female polarity of what gender is in terms of effects. And so for men, the larger risk factors come from internal stuff, from the personality of being a very open personality actually makes you more at risk for cannabis use disorder. Your mental health of high externalizing, high childhood conduct disorder, lots of fear, neurocognitive problems such as impulsive delay discounting, where you're just more likely to just be impulsive, and low hippocampus, with low memory centers of the brain. So it's a lot of internal stuff. Conversely, for women, it was more educational risk factors. And those included things like low education levels, low support. And so it was interesting to see that for women, the propensity cannabis use disorder came more from outside things, and for men, it came from more inside things. I had one more thing here. CBD extracts work well with antibiotics to kill salmonella. Every week, I have something about the cannabinoids being antimicrobial for killing viruses or killing bacteria. I have research files on it that are just gigantic. It goes on and on. I think that the future will be using, hospitals just using CBD wipe pads to wipe down things to kill MRSA, because the cannabinoids kill MRSA as well. And MRSA, the staph infection that's resistant to most drugs that we have, MRSA kills more people than HIV in the United States every year. And so ways to stop MRSA, especially in the hospital setting, is a big game changer. So one more thing that I will mention, my ads here, I do counseling for people, one-on-one individuals who want to use things like CBD, cannabis, PEA, oleamide for their sleep, or psychedelics. If you're interested in any of those, you can book a session with me and we talk for half an hour to an hour. I find out what you need and we make it really easy, exactly where to buy the stuff, make sure it's not expensive and in your price range, and give you exactly week by week how you're going to go through and learn how to use these things for your health and find that sweet spot that you can get a lot more health. So you can book a session with me if that interests you. I also book sessions with healthcare practitioners. If you're a nurse or a doctor, or an acupuncturist or someone like that, a lot of people like that come to me for just the basic rule of thumbs, where to get stuff, how to use it, what works for patients. I've spent a lot of years interviewing people. And so I have, a lot of rule of thumbs about how this stuff really works in the real world. Two announcements is November 15th and 16th, the National Indigenous Cannabis Policy and Advocacy Summit in DC. I'm hoping to go and to cover it as a journalist. I'm talking to one publication, but if you're an editor and that would interest you, look me up. The other thing that's happening is I am going on October 20th and 21st to the IACM conference. They are the International Association for Cannabinoid Medicines. It's one of the great European cannabis medicine organizations, and they have their conference in Basel, Switzerland. So that's my first conference since this pandemic started. Between the pandemic and having two little kids, I haven't gone to a conference in a long time. So I'm very much looking forward to going. I'll be covering that as well and interviewing some people. But again, if your publication might be interested in that, I can cover it for you. But you can buy your tickets online for not much, like €100 or something. You can attend this, and they have an amazing array of speakers. If you're into cannabinoid science, they have some great scientists. There's also a lot of practical talks about different diseases and how you can be using cannabinoids as well. So if you're a healthcare practitioner, I think it would be worth your time for this 2-day conference for like $150. So that's it on that. So it's 10 minutes to cover the best of the science. That's good to know. Real quick on the headlines, it's official that the World Anti-Doping Agency will keep cannabis on their list of banned substances because it violates the spirit of sport. So fuck them, fuck that. That's bullshit, but some of that's U.S. pressure. So it goes. Colorado and Washington state made more tax money from cannabis than they did from alcohol and tobacco. And I know a lot of people would say, oh, that's great. And politicians would say that's great. That's because they heavily overtax this plant and have kneecapped the industry. Let alone that you can't claim tax benefits because it's an illegal substance. These businesses are hampered because it's so heavily taxed at the retail level that it makes it really hard for consumers. And as well, there are a lot of medical patients who don't get a medical card for various reasons, expensive, difficult, whatever, and they just buy through the recreational system, and their medicine is taxed. And I think medicine should be untaxed. And you should be able to grow your own. And so I don't think it's amazing that all this tax money is flowing from cannabis because it's way overtaxed compared to anything, even things like alcohol and tobacco and gasoline, which are, I think, the most heavily taxed things in the United States. So that's good for that. In the war on drugs, one terrible thing, the DEA is trying to bill $11,000 to friend of the newsletter, Dr. Sunil Agarwal. He's an old buddy from New York. He's behind the psilocybin for end of life lawsuit that is annoying the shit out of the DEA. And I think they just decided a way to screw him was for his Freedom of Information Act requesting more information about what they're up to. They want to charge him $11,000 for his Freedom of Information Act because they think it's for his own commercial interest, which is a BS reason just to screw with him. And the other thing that the DA is doing is they're inventing this myth of rainbow fentanyl for children. There is rainbow fentanyl out there. It is not being marketed for children. There's been rainbow fentanyl for years. There's been rainbow, every kind of drug under the sun for years. This is not something for Halloween for children, but they're creating this myth and setting themselves up for a big funding boost. They're the worst. I always have a psychedelic section. There's a 2CB vape pen, which is making the rounds on Twitter, which seems pretty cool. There is a case study here of someone using THC, CBD, and psilocybin against advanced breast cancer. The THC and CBD make a lot of sense. Every week I have a medium to large cancer section. The cannabinoids do cause cancer cells to kill themselves, to be starved of blood in all kinds of ways. And so that makes sense to either complement your cancer treatments with cannabinoids, or even just take a couple of weeks and treat yourself with them first, then go with the conventional method. That's easy. It's easy to do. Psilocybin makes sense. I don't know. I've never heard of it having anti-cancer properties, but it certainly helps with your mindset. And that's a big part of cancer. There's a review of how psychedelics promote neuroplasticity. And there is a new automated ketamine infusion treatment study. So it's taking ketamine and it's just automatically giving you the amount of ketamine that you're supposed to have. And you kind of sit there in the chair, which to me sounds great because I think ketamine is amazing as a recreational drug, as well as a treatment for treatment-resistant depression. And I first combined ketamine with psychedelic animation back when I was living in New York. And when you put up really beautiful animated shorts and you have like an hour-long playlist and just the right amount of ketamine, you're kind of diving in. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. And so my sci-fi vision is Google Bed, which is a bed that projects the perfect playlist on the ceiling and it dispenses the ketamine at the small bumps every 20-minute intervals. That would be perfect. So anyway, there's a little bit of look into my heart. On the cannabis business side, cannabis companies are slashing jobs. No surprise there. They weren't doing well before the pandemic, and now the P word is out there. Everybody's looking at the door. In the USDA reports that interest in hemp in Europe is growing. I'm here in France, so that's interesting to me. France has a lot of hemp growing, more than anyone else. But France is also the worst on cannabis, on recreational and medical cannabis. They are trying to make CBD illegal. They are like the most regressive cannabis country in Western Europe, and it happens to be where I live. So I don't think I'll be going to get my bud anytime soon from a legal place here. I'll just keep going by the river, which is fine. I like the guys at the river. So that's the top half of the newsletter, and then I have the whole second half that contains the bulk of the cannabinoid science. And so I think 15 minutes is about good. So if you want to read about the rest of the cannabinoid science, hop on to my newsletter, Cannabinoids and the People. It's on Substack. My name is Lex Pelger. I also do podcasts. I have a company, White Whale Creations, where we create newsletters, science archives, and podcasts for cannabis and psychedelic companies. So check out whitewhalecreations.com for more about that. And my new website is about to launch at lexpelger.com, and it's going to collect all of my podcasts, all of my newsletters, and all of my content that I've worked on these past years there, as well as my Moby Dick pot books. I have been writing graphic novels about cannabis and the endocannabinoid system and the history of the human story with cannabis for 5 years now. I have 3 books finished. And I'm based on Moby Dick, so there's going to be 135 books total. I have them all lined up and ready to go. It's been a little slow with the kids, but I'm getting back into it again. So those books are actually free online, and soon they're going to be for sale on Amazon, but you can go ahead and check out the PDF if you like. So that's the stuff that I do. Feel free to book a session with me to learn more about cannabis for your health, or check out my work at lexpelger.com or my company at whitewhalecreations.com. Thanks for tuning in, and feel free to shoot any feedback to me at pelger@gmail.com. Have a good day.